Good evening and welcome to one and all. I've seen a lot of you back in shul, but especially for those who I've not seen in person, it's nice to see you here tonight, even on this solemn occasion. Also want to welcome our partners at Ohev Shalom and Westside Institutional Synagogue who are joining us tonight. In particular, my friends Rabbi Daniel Sherman and Chazan Zevi Mueller. Following the program, we'll ask Chazan Mueller to lead us in the recitation of the Kel Maleh. Every year to commemorate Yom HaShoah, we ask a survivor to share his or her story. Of course, with each passing year, the call to remember the Holocaust feels more urgent. This is surely true, but to hear from a survivor is also to hear what it means to understand the value of perspective, what's essential in life, and what really matters. Those are messages that seem particularly relevant and particularly poignant at a time like this. I guess we could say in a certain sense that as much as we try to elevate Yom HaShoah by marking the day, by commemorating the day, Yom HaShoah elevates us. And so I want to thank Harriet and George and the entire Blank family. You are an ongoing source of inspiration to me personally and to our entire community. Thank you for all that you do, and thank you for being you. I'd like to thank our co-sponsors, Ruby and Joseph Gottlieb, who are commemorating the recent yahrzeit of Ruby's father, Paul Kestenbaum. May his neshama have an aliyah. I want to express special appreciation to Josh Kahn and to Mark Katrick at the Museum of Tolerance for helping connect us to Mr. Engelson. The museum has always had a special relationship with Eula, my alma mater, so this event feels especially close to home. And finally, I want to thank our speaker this evening. Mr. Morris Engelson has spoken and published on the Holocaust on many occasions, but Mr. Engelson could hardly imagine repeating a talk he'd already given. A scientist by training, he was very keen on understanding who we are and what our congregation is like, so that he could craft the talk best suited to our specific community. We're so grateful for his willingness to join us this evening, and it's my honor at this time to introduce Mr. Morris Engelson.
Thank you. Good evening. I would like to dedicate this talk to the memory of my brother, Eloi Nishmas Yitzchak Ben Zev, whom I lost to the COVID virus almost exactly 1 year ago. Is one day difference. The Holocaust, the Shoah, is a vast topic. I think of it as broad and deep as the ocean. And like the ocean, it consists of multiple droplets, each one a little different. Today, we will focus on one of these droplets, which is the story or some of the story of my survival. A more extensive version is available from the Spielberg Shoah Foundation. And the whole ocean of the Shoah is an ocean of bitter taste and a taste of death. But some of the droplets, if we look very closely as through a microscope, you'll find far and few between individual drops of sweet water. These, to me, are the second part of what we are commemorating this evening, which is the Gvura part of Yom HaShoah veHaGvura. And while the original intent was to focus on the Warsaw Ghetto Rebellion, the scholarship of the last 70 odd years since this was established by the State of Israel has found that there are many, numerous versions of Gvura, individual and collective. And I would like to focus on one of these, which is the Gvura of the righteous of the nations, people, non-Jews, who risked their all and in many instances lost their lives to try and save Jews. And I owe my life to such an individual. So this will be the two parts of the commemoration, the Shoah and the Gvura. Now, to my story. I was born in 1935 in a small shtetl, a town 30 miles northeast of what is now the capital of Lithuania, which is the city of Vilnius, in Yiddish, Vilna. At that time, between the two world wars, the place was actually controlled by Poland. As a consequence, because of the arrangements between the Nazis and the communists, the place was actually occupied by the Russians, and the Nazis, the Germans, didn't come there till 1941, in June 22nd, 1941, when the Germans invaded Russia. The Jews were immediately put into a ghetto, basically a family to a room, and this was not so easy under any circumstances, especially in that place, because Eastern Europe between in late 1930s and early 1940s was a very primitive location. We had no indoor water. We had no indoor plumbing. I remember the well outside. You brought water up with a crank in a bucket. And now you have to live a family to a room. Jews were not permitted to have jobs or to have businesses, so there was no income. And Jews had to wear the yellow star to identify them as Jews. The stars, as I recall it at that time, were kind of primitive, handmade. I have one which is of a more substantial, more professional construction, if you will, from the ghetto in Belarus that we went to later. And I will show you now what this yellow star looks like. This is of a later time. The ghetto was an open place. There were no walls, there were no guards. The only thing is, if you went out without documentation and you were caught, the penalty was death. If you took your yellow star off, the penalty was death. We didn't understand it at the time why it was like that, but it was absolutely clear later. We were not supposed to be around for very long, so there was no purpose in building walls or putting up guards. Now, the area, as I said, is a very primitive area. If you look at a satellite photo of the area, you'll see forests, and many rivers. I remember we lived about 5 minutes walk from the river Zhymiana, which you can find on the map. And the area is agricultural. A lot of farms in the area. But the roads were not paved, not even gravel. So transport was by horse-drawn wagons, which is not very effective. But there was a railroad. The railroad went from Vilna all the way into Russia, and there was a station around on this railroad and the town around the station, and that's where we lived. A little less than 1,000 Jews and several times as many others, mostly Poles, because of the area was controlled by Poland, as I said. So most of the people in town were Polish, and most of the farmers were Polish. There were no Jewish farmers because Jews were not allowed to own any land. So you have the place now. Now, we didn't know it, of course, but we were all slated to be killed. Ausrotten der Juden was the essential thing. And initially, the process was to kill the Jews. The idea, it was to come and kill the Jews by taking them out of town, a place where there were holes in the ground that could be used for graves. If there were no holes, they would dig holes and shoot the Jews one by one. But the Jews had to be moved. So the killers came in and ordered the local authorities to bring in a certain number of horse-drawn wagons because the Jews had to be moved. One of the people there, there's a story behind the story, which I will not go into, understood what this was about. He had a Jewish friend whom he told that something was going to happen, you better escape. This person told other Jews. Pretty soon everybody knew that something was going to happen, but very few people tried to escape for three reasons. One reason, when I say we, I mean the adults, did not believe that they would come and kill everybody. They knew the Germans hated us. There was conscripted labor. The able-bodied men had to work on fortifications and roads. People were killed for all kinds of imaginary infractions, but they would come and kill everybody. Made no sense whatsoever. So we thought it was just an atrocity story. The other thing is, if people escaped, we would lose our possessions. The possessions were basically all we had to barter for food. So that would be important. And the third thing is, this is not a place where you could survive in the winter. The winters are bitterly cold, way, way below zero. You could not survive without help, and the people would not be so keen to help you, especially as the penalty for helping Jews was death. So there was no place to run. So very few people tried to escape, and most of these were caught. But our family is a little bit different. My father, through a very strange story, which I will not tell you now because it would take half an hour, was a boy who had a boyhood friendship with one of the farmers. They were friends since they were young teenagers. And he felt that he could get out. He was experienced in outdoor work. He felt he could get out if he was by himself, but he couldn't do it if he had his wife and children with him. So my mother, my older brother, and I would go out, take off our yellow stars. If we were caught, we would be dead. But if we were not caught, we would go to a nearby farm where we would ask to stay that night. And if they came, my father felt he would escape and come to get us, and we would hide. And if they did not come to kill the Jews, then he would escape and bring us back to the ghetto. That's the plan. So we go out and we walk about 1 hour. Nobody bothers us. We take off the yellow star. We come to the farm. The farm, there is a woman and a teenage boy, about 15, 16 years old, and nobody else is there. My mother knows the woman. The woman knows my mother. My mother asks to stay there that night, but the woman says, I can't let you stay. It's too dangerous. But my mother keeps asking and begging, and finally, the woman can't handle it anymore. So she says, you know, we don't lock our barns around here. And she goes into the house. So my mother figured it out. We go into the barn. The day in question is September 26, 1941, which is a Friday. The following day is Shabbos, and it's a special Shabbos. It's Shabbos Shuvah, the Shabbos between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. That's when they came to kill the Jews. So we're in the barn. It's Friday evening. Father did not come. It's Friday night. Father did not come. It is now Saturday morning, and Father did not come. The barn is an old barn. There are holes. There are cracks in the walls we can look through. There's a big, big clearing. On one side is the barn. The other side is the house. Huge clearing. Way in the distance is a forest and the river. We look through the cracks in the forest and in the barn walls, and we see a man with a gun come into the clearing. He is one of the killers that were killing the Jews in town. This particular person was not German. It turns out that the commander of Einsatzgruppe A, Dr. Franz Walter Stahlecker, liked to get local helpers because he tried to kill as many Jews as he could. And this was a Lithuanian Schauist whom the Germans enlisted to help kill the Jews. This will explain how the woman, the farm woman, was able to so easily communicate with this particular person. He was a local individual. The woman comes out, she greets this person. What can I do for you? They have a conversation. Of course, we couldn't hear it, but the boy, the young man, came into the barn later and told us. So I'm kind of inventing some dialogue based on what I understand happened. She says, what can I do for you? He says, I'm looking for Jews. Some Jews escaped. Do you have any Jews here? And she says, I have nothing to do with Jews. He says, I'm going to go and look into the house. If I find Jews in the house, do you know what will happen to you? She's very happy to tell him to go search into the house because she has no Jews there. So she says, I have no Jews in the house. And then he says, do you lock your barn? Well, they don't lock their barn. She can't claim that she locks her barn. So she says, no, nobody around here locks their barn. So she says, I'll go in the house and I will look. I will go in the barn and I will look. Maybe some Jews sneaked into the barn at night. Now keep this in mind. He thinks that Jews sneaked into the barn at night. If they find us, if he finds us, he'll kill us. But she is safe because he thinks we got in at night. But she is a brave person. She's afraid, but she is also very brave. And she has a plan. So she says to him, you know, you can do what you like, but you look awfully tired. He says, of course I'm tired. I've been running around all night looking for Jews. So she says, why don't you come into the house? I'll give you a good breakfast. You'll feel stronger and then you can look for Jews. He thought it was a great idea. So he goes into the house. She sits him down and gives him a big breakfast. And she tells her son, get them out of there. So the son runs into the barn and he tells us, let's go. You have to get out. So we run out of the barn. We're running across the clearing. We can see him through the window. He's sitting at the table eating. And then he turns around and he sees us. He runs out with his gun and he starts shouting, stop. Of course, we don't stop. We're running and he is shooting and we are running and he is shooting. And soon we're in the forest and he is shooting and we are running. And it's hard to run. There are brambles, there are bushes, there are holes in the ground. And we are running and running and running. And pretty soon we can't run anymore. Everything is quiet. We're lost in the forest. But we're now lost in the forest. There are farms and villages and the town is very close by, but the forest is big. If you go the wrong way, you can be lost for days. We don't know where we are, or we're just walking in the forest. And then we see something way, way up, high over the trees, something sticking up above the trees. So we go that way, we come out, and we're not far from town. And there's a little village there, an extension of the town, if you will. And there's a church. And the steeple of the church is sticking up way above the trees. And that's what we saw. My mother comes to the church, a woman comes out, and she says, you're Jews, they're killing the Jews in town, go to the house over there, and the man in the house will help you. So we go to the house. A man comes out, my mother tells him who we are, and he says, yes, I can help you. Where do you want to go? What is that about? If you look at the map of the area, you'll see that there are three countries very close together. Lithuania, Poland, and Belarus. And they're very close together. And when there are borders that close together, there are smugglers. This is the local smuggler. When he says, I'll take you wherever you want to go, he means it literally. He'll take you wherever you want to go. My mother tells him she wants to go to a city in Belarus. Why Belarus? She has a sister there. And they're killing the Jews in Lithuania. Maybe they are not killing the Jews in Belarus. Of course, they were killing the Jews everywhere, but we didn't know. but he is a businessman. He will take us, but he wants to get paid. But he's an honorable man as far as I'm concerned, because he could hand us over to the Germans and get a reward. But no, he'll take us. My mother hands over some jewelry, and he takes us. We go only at night. We don't go on the roads. We go through the forests. We go through the farms. He knows the area perfectly. We can't see anything. It's pitch black. Am I on again? I don't know what's going on. So he takes us for days this way, and he hands us over to somebody else, and this somebody else hands us over to somebody else. These people were working on a relay system, and eventually we come to this place in Belarus. It's a big ghetto, walls with barbed wire. We walk into the ghetto. We find a place to stay. It's very difficult, 3 more people to stay, but we find a place to stay. We register in the ghetto. My brother registers as 14 years old. He's only 12, but he registers as 14 because 14 means you can work. If you work, you have the ability to get some food. If you don't work, you can't get food. So we have 2 people working and we have food. Of course, we're hungry, but we're not starving. A big difference between starving and hungry. We're in the ghetto. I run around all over the ghetto. I have a long scar on my left thigh where I got snagged in the barbed wire. It got infected. I almost died. We won't go through all the details. Now back to father. Father is in the ghetto. They come to kill the Jews. He thinks he can get out. He can't get out. He's running here. He's running there. They catch him. He fights. He escapes. I'll skip all of that. It's now Saturday afternoon, and he is still alive. It's a miracle. Everybody's gone. Everybody's dead. I lost 61 members of my immediate family there, of my aunts and uncles and cousins and whoever. We have a book that was done after the war, a Isker book, a book of remembrance. Here is the book. And in the back of the book are nearly 900 names of those people who were killed on that day, September 26 and 27 of 1941, by the members of Einsatzgruppe A, primarily by Lithuanian Šiaulists. So he manages to get out now because there's nobody there. He comes to the farm. The woman is still there. The boy is there. He says to the woman, my wife, my children, did they come here? The woman says, yes, they came here. I'm sorry to tell you, they are dead. He says, what do you mean they're dead? She says, a man with a gun came here and he killed them. They are dead. So my father says, well, where are the bodies if they're dead? And she says, well, he killed them over there in the forest. So my father says, well, you didn't see them get killed. How do you know they're dead? The woman says, be realistic. A woman with 2 young children, the man with the gun was right behind them. And I heard the shots in the forest. Obviously, they are dead. Now my father has no choice. He can't go looking for us, so he starts walking. He will walk 20 miles to the farm of a Polish farmer by the name of Adam Sienkiewicz. Adam Sienkiewicz is the man who saved my life and the life of our family. He was a boyhood friend of my father's with a very, very strange story that I will skip, but it's a most unusual story, and they were friends. My father came to the farm He tells Adam what's going on. I need to hide. And Adam says, of course you can hide here, my friend. And it was very easy to hide my father because my father knew farming. He had worked together with Adam side by side on the farm through a very strange arrangement, going back 20 odd years to my father's father, my Zayda, who was friends with Adam's father. We'll skip all of that. So my father takes on a new name. He pretends to be a cousin of Adam's, whose farm was destroyed during the fighting. And now he's come to Adam and is working on his farm. So everything is fine. But my father can get it out of his mind that maybe we're alive. He survived by a miracle. The woman didn't see us get killed. Maybe we're alive. So he starts telling Adam, you've got to go and look and search for my wife and children. Well, this is very dangerous. If you go on the roads in Nazi German occupied Poland or Lithuania, and you have no travel papers, you're caught, you're a spy. If you're lucky, you get killed. If you're not lucky, you get tortured. He doesn't want to go, but he knows the family and he's a good man and he wants to help us. And he finally decides he's going to go. So they made up a list and he's going to go. 1 day a week, 2 days a week, 3 days a week, whatever it may be. He goes out, comes back. They're not here. Cross it out. He goes back, cross it out. He comes back. Every time he does it and he does it and he does it. He does it for a whole year. He's looking for us for a whole year. And then he comes to the place in Belarus because it's on the list. Of course, my father has no idea we're there. He doesn't think we could have come there. How could we possibly get there? But it's on the list because my mother has a sister there. So he comes there. He looks for Jews. They're easy to find. Any Jew that is working someplace will go out through the town, through the city, and he's wearing a yellow star. So Adam finds the first Jew he can find. He asks him, do you know this particular woman? And the woman is not my mother, but her sister, because the sister is a long-term resident. My mother is a newcomer. And he finds somebody who knows the sister. And then he asks, is there anybody else with her? And this person says, yes, there's a woman and 2 young children with her. So he knows that he's found us. But he won't go back to father and tell him he's found us and didn't make contact. He's been looking for us for a whole year. So he walks into the ghetto. Walking into the ghetto is easy. You don't need any papers. It's walking out that's so difficult. But he walks into the ghetto. He tracks down my mother. It's wonderful news. We thought that father was dead, but father is alive. And Adam says, you don't know it, but they're killing the Jews in Belarus all around you. You don't have much time left. We'll come with horses and wagons and we'll get you out of here. Be ready at a moment's notice. As soon as you hear that we've come, you have to get out. Adam has a brother. These 2 brothers inherited the farm of their father, which was then separated into 2 smaller farms. Now the brother knows about my father. He can be trusted. Nobody else can be trusted. There are reasons for that. I'll explain in a little while. It wasn't just the Germans that were the danger. There was the Polish underground that was the danger. So Adam goes back. He sneaks out of the ghetto. I don't know how. There were holes in the walls in various places for smuggling food, but the food was really smuggled by little children. So the holes were very small. And I don't know how Adam got out, but he did get out and he walked back. It took him several days of walking and he got back and he told father, they're alive. We need to get them out. We'll take horses, 2 wagons, and we'll bring them back. But there's a problem. It is now the rainy season. And when it rains, it rains. It really, really, really torrential rains. And the roads are mud. They're on the real roads. All there is mud. And Wheels cannot go through this mud. They have to wait for snow, so can come with sleds. But there is no snow. My father is getting very nervous because there are rumors of killing the Jews in Belarus. They've already killed most of the Jews in Lithuania. What will he do? They're waiting and waiting and waiting. Finally, there's a little bit of snow. They hitch up two sleds. The horses are straining. They're barely moving. Adam and his brother Bronislav are driving these horses and wagons. The wagons are full of produce. They have no authority to move this produce, but they'll pretend to be very stupid people that think they can move produce in the winter without authorization. If they're caught, maybe they'll get away with it. The horses are barely moving, and then a miracle, a huge snowstorm, a foot, 2 feet, maybe 3 feet of snow. The horses are running, the sleds are gliding, nothing to it. On the main road, they come to the Belarus town. They sent word to my mother, coming out immediately. We are waiting for you. My mother and my brother have papers. They can come out of the ghetto because they have jobs. I have no papers. I wasn't smart enough to ask my mother while I could where she got the papers. I wonder, were they forged or otherwise? But she had some papers for me that she prepared between the first time that Adam came and the second time. And we came to the entrance, to the exit entrance, it's the same place. She hands the papers over to the guard. The guard takes a look, he's satisfied with the papers, and we walk out. We walk out through a little door, like a normal door that people go. And on the other side is a huge wooden arm that goes up and down, which is for transport, for automobiles. We walk about 5 minutes and we see an automobile and 2 trucks driving into the ghetto. It turns out, we found out later, this was a children's action, one of the most terrifying things that you can have in a ghetto. Children Aktionen where they came and took the children away and you never saw them again. I could go through all kinds of examples of where people, they came and we had hiding places to hide and so forth, but I will skip all of that because the important part is coming now. So we go out. The ghetto was on lockdown. 5 minutes later, we could not have gotten out, but we keep walking. We come to the wagons. My mother is dressed as a farm woman. She's sitting on top with one of the drivers. My brother is dressed as a farm woman. He is sitting on top with one of the drivers. I am wrapped in blankets, hiding underneath the produce. They're going to go on the main roads in the open. If we're stopped, we're all dead. The horses will run as fast as they can make them go. And we're hoping we're not going to get stopped. So we go. And we go. The horses run. The sleds glide. There's a lot of snow. And we come to Father, where we're not stopped. So now we need to hide. My father is hiding in plain sight, as I said. He's taken on a new name. He's pretending to be the cousin of Adam. My mother will pretend to be his wife, which she is, and she'll work with him. My brother will now be much younger, so he will take care of the animals, and he's hiding and taking care of the animals, and he's not working on the farm, which he can't do, but they have to hide me because I'm too young to do anything. Besides, I only speak Yiddish. So what will they do with me? They hide me in all sorts of places. The most difficult probably was the attic of the house. I was there for about 5 or 6 months. 7-year-old boy hiding in the attic with little animals running around at night. It's not such a good place to be. Every night, not every night, but 2 or 3 times in the week at night, Adam comes in, takes me down from the attic, and we go walking around in the farm so I can get out of there. It's not a good place to be. And every time somebody sees something that is suspicious, we have to run and hide in the forest. They've prepared hiding places in the forest, little big holes in the ground, be out inside potato silos. They one of the crops was potatoes, and when the weather is very cold, they dig holes and put the potatoes way below ground where it's warm. So there was a big potato silo out there where the potatoes are hiding, are stored underground, and they dug a hole inside this hole where we could hide. It was not a pleasant place to be with crawly things and so forth, but every time somebody saw something, we had to run immediately. And it was not just because these people who saw something might report to the Germans, because somebody might report to the Germans. There were rewards for reporting on Jews, but the Poles were not exactly the great friends with the Germans. The problem for us was the underground Polish movement called Army Krajowa. These people were controlled out of London and well equipped. They were staunch patriots. They hated the Russians. They killed there was a group of Russian escaped prisoners of war. They killed them. And whenever they could find Jews, they were anti-Semites. They were virulent anti-Semites. They would kill the Jews and kill the Poles who helped the Jews, because the Poles were traitors to Poland. And these were the underground Western-supported people. You can check them out. And so if somebody saw us, not necessarily somebody who would want to hurt us, but they would tell somebody, and somebody would tell somebody, and somebody else would tell somebody who knows somebody in the Army Krajowa, and they would come and kill. And it happened that there was a farm not very far from us. They were hiding Jews. We had no idea. Somebody reported it. Killers came. They killed everybody. They came to our farm. They told Adam, "Do you have something to drink?" So they're sitting there drinking vodka, and they tell Adam, "Take your farm hands and you go bury the bodies that are over there in that farm over there." And that's what would have happened to us. So we had to run and hide all the time. But one time, somebody saw something late in the evening. We had no time to run. These houses were small houses, lots of children. Children shared beds, even boys and girls. If they're young enough, they took me out of the attic and put me in bed with their daughter, because they thought it was safer that way. Nobody came. But think of it. They put me in bed with their daughter, and they took that chance. That's what these people did. So now we are there. Eventually, we are liberated by the Russians. I'm skipping a lot of stuff. There's nothing there for us. My father tries to repossess some of his possessions. He had 7 brothers and sisters and parents. Everybody's dead, but he can't get their possessions back, because Jews who tried to get their possessions back were either beaten up or murdered. So nothing we can do. We get on a train, we come to the border, we sneak across the border into Germany. Now we're in Russian-occupied Germany. We don't want to be in Russian-occupied Germany. We want to be in the American sector of Germany. Now we sneak across the border again. This time it's very dangerous, because the Russian border guards are not very friendly to people who try to sneak out to the American side. But we make it. We get out. We're in the American sector of Germany now. And we're in a DP camp, displaced persons camp. And we're there for 4.5 years. And we're waiting to go someplace, any place that will take us. My father has a brother in the United States. He fills out various papers. There's a small quota that present people, which is very small compared to the number of refugees there were, but our number came up. It came up, and we are permitted to enter the United States, and we come in November 1949. We come to the United States. I am now 14 years old. What do you do with a 14-year-old boy? You send him to school. School is high school. There's only one minor little problem. I was taught the alphabet. Until then, I only knew the Hebrew alphabet, Yiddish, but I was told the alphabet. I learned the Latin alphabet, but I didn't know any English whatsoever. No English. So they sent me to high school. This was, I think, about 40 years before ESL, English as a second language instruction, which, well, I'll just say it was interesting. The teachers didn't know what to do with me. I didn't know what to do with myself. But it's amazing what you can do if you have an incentive. So I did manage to finish high school and finish high school well enough to get some good grades and good college, university admission grades with a few degrees in university afterwards. In the meantime, my parents are sending packages to the Sienkiewicz's, as many packages as the Russians would permit. And these are not very expensive goods, but Western goods are very precious in that area. And by the way, they keep in touch with the Sienkiewicz's, so I know that this girl that I shared the bed with, she became a medical doctor. Just an interesting aside. In the meantime, my brother takes on a different job. He spends a lot of years, more than 10 years, gathering documentation, piece by piece by piece by piece, to prove all the things that Adam had done, searching for us, hiding us, many other things I didn't discuss, till eventually Adam is permitted, is accepted to become part of the righteous. He is enrolled, his name is placed into the book of those who were helping Jews, of the righteous, of whom it is said that by their actions they saved the honor of mankind. And truly they did, because there were so few of them and they operated in such a difficult environment. In our case, the danger was not only the Germans, but fellow Poles. And they did all of those things. Of course, this is one tiny little story, one little droplet in a huge ocean. The Lithuanian Jews, I don't know, depending on whose history analysis you want to follow, but some historians claim that 96% of Lithuanian Jewry were killed because the Lithuanians cooperated so well with the Germans. And Einsatzgruppe A was so virulent in trying to kill the Jews. Dr. Walter Stahlecker was especially effective at it, and you will find that most of the Einsatzgruppe leaders were university educated. There was I think 21 or 22 of these leaders were put on trial in Nuremberg. And as I recall it, 16 of them had PhD degrees. 16 of the 22 that were put on trial had doctorate degrees. They only used the best, the smartest, the most effective and efficient in the very important job of making the world Judenrein. That was the Shoah. But we must not forget. In my opinion, I think it's crucial that we not forget that among the darkness and the bitter taste of the death of this bitter ocean, there were droplets of sweet water, and they redeemed the honor of mankind. People like Adam Sienkiewicz. So that's an abbreviated version of my story. I will be happy to take any questions if we have time.
Mr. Engelson, on behalf of the Jewish Center and all of us who have been listening, we're so thankful and appreciative. Could you say a word about your faith and what it is that gave you faith during the Shoah, and what it is that allowed you to retain your faith after the Shoah?
As I explained, I'm a scientist. One of my hobbies for the last, 30, 40 years has been to explore what I call the intersection between science and Torah. And in that intersection, there are many questions or many challenges to Torah from science. I've even written a book about it, but it's immaterial. And I find that the questions that atheists pose that are based on science are the easiest, almost childish questions to answer. The most difficult challenge, I think, is the question that you just asked, which is why tzaddikim suffer and rishoyim prosper. The question of good and evil and how it is that such a thing is permitted. Everyone who has that question has a different answer. There are many, many answers that are given. In my opinion, they're not answers, they're simply explanations. I know of only one answer, but the explanation would take hours. And it's the answer that Moshe Rabbeinu was given when he asks about the death of Rabbi Akiva, the tortured death of Rabbi Akiva. Is this the Torah? And is this its reward? And the answer was, be silent, for that is how I have determined it to be. And I think the only answer is silence and tears. And there are stories like that. There's the famous story about that people cannot explain it. You either believe or you don't believe. For those who don't believe, as the saying goes, there are no answers. And for those who believe, there are no questions. And the only answer is, my brother has the answer. One day, when I join him, I will also have the answer. Right now, I can only say, maybe it's because of my experiences, because I was always with people that I trusted. I was always with at least one of my parents. And I met people like Adam, whom I trusted completely. And it's very different from other child survivors who had no one. I have no idea how I would react, and I have no right to make judgment on others. As we learn in Pirkei Avos, do not judge your fellow unless you've stood in this place. From my place, it's not very difficult because of my experiences. but I have not stood in somebody else's place, and I cannot speak for somebody else. I'm sorry, but that's the only answer I can give you.
We have time for one more question, and then we'll conclude with the Kelmale. Mr. Engelson, could you tell us what gives you hope about the present and the future, and what's a message of hope that we can take with us in this time?
I am sorry to say that while I have hope, because I believe that there are people like the Sinkeviches in all generations and at all times, and that's what gives hope. But the slogan, never again, has not come to fruition. The world has not learned from the Holocaust. Anti-Semitism is alive and well, and there are not necessarily Holocausts of Jews, but the world has not learned not to destroy others. So I am fearful, but I believe that good is stronger than evil, and good will eventually triumph. Unfortunately, there's a great deal of suffering in between. But I totally believe that eventually we will see that the good triumphs totally.
Amen. Amen. Thank you for your inspiring words. We'll keep them with us in the days ahead. Please give your attention now to Chazan Zephi Mueller, who will lead us in the recitation of the Kalmale as we remember the 6 million martyrs of the Holocaust.
Thank you, Rabbi. Ofinu malkeinu Eloi oruchos elechol bosor Ele molei rachamim Hametzei menuchonechoeno Tachas kanefei yashechino במעלות כקדושים וטהורים, כזוהר אורוקיע מזהירים. אסני שמו של שיש מיוסר ריבפוס אלפי ישראל אנושים ונשים ילודים וילדות שנהרגו שנשרפו ושנטבחו ושנחנקו ושנגברו חיים בידי הנאצים הגרמנים יימח שמם צוררי ימינו בגלות אירופה. כולם קדושים טהורים כהנים וצדיקים ארזי הלבנון ארזי הלבונוין ואדירי התוארו בגן עדן בגן עדן חוסום לא כן בלו רחמים מצרור בצרור החיים אסני שמו אסיים אדוני ונחלוסום ויזכר לנו הקדוסום ושמוד לנו לכל ישראל זכוסום ארץ אל תחסידומו ואל יהי מקום לזעקוסום בזכוסום נדחי ישראל יושבו לאחוזוסום זכר צדיקוסום יעלה תמיד לפונך יבואו שלום וינוחו על משכבותיהם ונאמר אמן.
Thank you, Chazan. This concludes our program.